Natalie Reynolds had always lived by the book. A high school literature teacher in a quiet Oregon town, she prided herself on discipline, structure, and the predictable rhythm of her days. Her life was a blend of Shakespearean lectures, well-organized lesson plans, and quiet evenings curled up with classic novels. That was until Ethan Carter walked into her classroom. Ethan was the kind of student who disrupted the calm not with noise but with presence. Tall, reserved, and sharp beyond his years, he transferred from a big city school mid-semester, and from the moment he took his seat at the back of the room, Natalie sensed something different. It wasn't inappropriate, not at first. It was curiosity, a subtle awareness. He looked at her like he understood something she didn't even understand about herself. Natalie tried to shake it off. Teachers had boundaries, and she had always respected them. But Ethan had a way of drawing people in. He wasn't loud or arrogant. He was respectful, thoughtful. His essays read like they were written by someone twice his age, and he had an insight into human emotion that startled her. One day, after class, he lingered. "Do you ever think love can go against the rules and still be right?" he asked, catching her off guard. She gave him a puzzled look. "What do you mean?" "Like Romeo and Juliet. Everyone says they were foolish, reckless. But maybe their love wasn't the problem. Maybe the world around them was." Natalie paused, unsure of how to answer. Literature often reflects the conflicts of society. Love doesn't exist in a vacuum. Ethan nodded but didn't press further. Still, that moment stayed with her. Weeks passed. Rumors stirred about Ethan's past. Nothing concrete, just whispers. Some said he'd been expelled from his last school. Others said he left on his own. Natalie didn't pry. She treated him like any other student, but something in his demeanor pulled at her. He carried weight on his shoulders that someone his age shouldn't have to. One evening, as she sat grading papers in her apartment, she received a knock. Confused, she opened the door to find Ethan standing there, soaked from the rain. "I know this is wrong. I'll leave if you want," he said quickly. "I just didn't have anywhere else to go." Natalie stared at him, heart pounding. "What happened?" "My uncle. He and I got into it again. He drinks. It got bad." She hesitated only a moment before stepping aside. "Come in." He didn't stay long. She gave him a blanket, let him dry off, and called the school counselor. But something changed that night. Their connection deepened, edged toward something that scared her. She tried to maintain distance, but the whispers in her heart grew louder. One day, after a heated classroom discussion about forbidden love in literature, Ethan stayed behind again. "Why are we so afraid of what other people think?" he asked. "Because we're taught that some lines shouldn't be crossed," she replied softly. "But what if love doesn't care about lines?" His words lingered with her as she walked through the empty halls. She'd spent years building walls, but now her heart was challenging them. It wasn't until after graduation that they saw each other again. Ethan had turned 18, moved out of his uncle's house, and enrolled in a community college. Natalie bumped into him at a bookstore in town. She tried to act casual, but the energy between them was different now. Less guarded, more real. They began meeting for coffee, talking about books, life, dreams. She felt herself softening, her heart unfolding in ways she hadn't expected. One crisp autumn evening, as golden leaves fell around them, Ethan took her hand. "I know this isn't normal, but I've never felt anything like this. Not with anyone." Natalie looked at him, the inner war clear in her eyes. "I was your teacher. But you're not anymore." They didn't kiss. Not then. But the silence that followed was filled with more emotion than any words could hold. Weeks turned into months. They kept their connection quiet, knowing the judgment it might bring. But their love wasn't built on impulse. It grew through quiet conversations, mutual respect, shared pain, and healing. When Natalie's colleagues began to suspect something, rumors once again started to swirl. She was called into the principal's office, questioned, warned. Ethan stood by her, but she felt the weight of every stare. "It's not fair," he said one night, frustration in his voice. "You're the best person I've ever known. Why should we be ashamed of that? Because people don't understand what they haven't lived." She was given a choice: step away from the school or end whatever relationship was suspected. She chose the former. "I can't lie to myself anymore," she told Ethan. "This is real. And I won't let the world shame me for it." She left her job, took up freelance writing. Ethan finished his first year of college. They moved into a modest apartment by the coast. Life wasn't easy, but it was honest. Their love faced judgment, but they didn't hide. Over time, the whispers faded. Those who once doubted saw the truth in how they looked at each other, how they supported each other. Ethan went on to become a counselor, driven by his own difficult past. Natalie published a novel, Whispers of the Heart, inspired by forbidden love that chose to bloom anyway. Years later, as they stood together at her book launch, hands entwined, someone from the crowd asked, "Was it worth all the rules you had to break?" Natalie smiled, glancing at Ethan. "Rules keep us safe," she said. "But love, real love, it teaches us how to be brave." And in that moment, with applause echoing around them, they knew they hadn't just broken the rules. They had rewritten them.